And I don't say that's the only way to buy things. It's just that that's the group I want to have join me, because I don't want to have a changing group all the time. I measure Berkshire by how little activity there is in it. If I had a church and I was the preacher and half the congregation left every Sunday, I wouldn't say, oh, this is marvelous because I have all this liquidity among my members, you know. Just terrific turnover, you know. I would rather get a church where all the seats are filled, you know, every Sunday by the same people. Well, that's the way we look at the businesses we buy. We want to buy something that we're really happy to own virtually forever, and we can't find a lot of those. And back when I started, I had way more ideas than money, so I was just constantly having to sell what I thought was the least attractive stock in order to buy something that I just discovered that looked even cheaper. But that's not our problem really now. And so we hope we're buying businesses that we're just as happy with 5 years from now as now. And if we ever found some huge acquisition, you know, then we'd have to sell something maybe to make that acquisition. But that would be a very pleasant problem to have. We never buy something with a price target in mind. I mean, we never buy something at 30 saying if it goes to 40 we'll sell it, or 50 or 60 or 100. We just don't do it that way any more than when we buy a private business like See's Candy for $25 million. We don't say to ourselves, if we ever got an offer of $50 million for this business, we'd sell it. That's just not the way to look at a business. The way to look at a business is this going to keep producing more and more and more money over time? And if the answer to that is yes, you don't need to ask any more questions. There is, yeah, way back there.
Those same principles in mind, what was your motivation for taking a piece of Solomon and similarly long-term capital? And how did you come up with the valuation?
Well, Solomon, like I said, I went into that because it was a 9% security in 1987, September 1987. The Dow was up 35% that year. We'd sold a lot of stuff, and I had a lot of money around. It looked to me like we were never going to get a chance to do anything. So I took an attractive security form in a business I would never buy the common stock of. And I went in because of that, and I think that's generally a mistake. It worked out okay finally on that, but it's not what I should have been doing. I either should have waited, in which case I could have bought more Coca-Cola a year later or thereabouts, or I should have even bought Coke at the prices it was selling at then, even though it was selling at a pretty good price at the time. So that was a mistake. On long-term capital, we have learned other businesses that are associated with securities over the years. And, I mean, one of them is arbitrage. I've done arbitrage for 45 years, and Graham did it for probably 30 years before that. And that's a business, unfortunately, I have to be near a phone for, and I have to really run out of the office myself, because it requires being more sort of market attuned. And I don't want to do that anymore. So unless a really big arbitrage situation came along that I understood, I won't be doing much of that. But I've probably been in 300 arbitrage situations at least in my life, maybe more. And it was a good business, perfectly good business. Long-term capital has a bunch of positions. They got tons of positions, but the top 10 are probably 90% of the money that's at risk. And I know something about those 10 positions. I don't know everything about them by a long shot. But I know enough where I would feel okay at a big discount going in, and we would have the staying power to hold it out. We might lose money on something like that, but the odds are with us. That's a game that I understand. There's a few other positions we have that aren't that big because they can't get that big, but they could involve yield curve relationships or on the run, off the run governments or things like that are just things you learn over time if you're around securities markets. They're not the base of our business. Probably on average, they've accounted for a half a percentage point of our return a year, or 3/4 of a percentage point a year of our return. They're little pluses that you get for actually having just been around a long time and learning a little bit about it. First arbitrage, not the first arbitrage I did, but one of the first arbitrages I did, involved a company where they were offering cocoa beans in exchange for their stock. That was in 1955. And I bought the stock, turned in the stock, got warehouse certificates for cocoa beans, and they happened to be a different type. They were trading in the New York Cocoa Exchange, but there was a basis differential in my favor, and I sold them. I mean, that's just something that I was around at the time, so I learned about. Hasn't been a cocoa bean deal since. 40-odd years. I've been waiting for another cocoa bean deal. I haven't seen it, but it's there in my memory if it ever comes along. And that long-term capital is that on a big scale. Yep. The question is about diversification, and I've got a dual answer to that. If you are not a professional investor, if your goal is not to manage money in such a way as to get a significantly better return than the world, then I believe in extreme diversification. I mean, so I believe 98 or 99%, maybe more than 99% of people who invest should extensively diversify and not trade. So that leads them to an index fund type of decision with very low costs. Because all they're going to do is own a part of America. And they made a decision that owning a part of America is worthwhile. I don't quarrel with that at all. That is the way they should approach it, unless they want to bring an intensity to the game to make a decision and start evaluating businesses. But once you're in the business of evaluating businesses, and you decide that you're going to bring the effort and intensity and time involved to get that job done, then I think that diversification is a terrible mistake to any degree. And I got asked that question when I was at SunTrust the other day. And if you really know businesses, you probably shouldn't own more than 6 of them. I mean, if you can identify 6 wonderful businesses, that is all the diversification you need. And you're going to make a lot of money. And I will guarantee you that going into a 7th one is going to, rather than putting more money in your first one, it's got to be a terrible mistake. Very few people have gotten rich on their 7th best idea. But a lot of people have gotten rich on their best idea. So I would say that for anybody working with normal capital who really knows the businesses they've gone into, a 6 is plenty. And I'd probably have half of it in what I liked best. I don't diversify personally. I mean, all the people I know that have done well, with the exception of, we mentioned Walter Schloss earlier. Walter diversifies a lot. He owns a little of everything. I call him Noah. He's got 2 of everything. Yeah.
How do you differentiate the Coca-Colas of the world from the Procter & Gamble's of the world?
Well, Procter & Gamble's a very, very good business. Strong distribution capabilities, lots of brand names and everything. But if you ask me, if I'm going to go away for 20 years, to put all my family's net worth in one business, but I'd rather have Procter & Gamble or Coke. Actually, Procter & Gamble's a little more, it'd be more diversified among product line, but I would feel sure of Coke than Procter & Gamble. I wouldn't be unhappy if somebody told me I had to own Procter & Gamble during that 20-year period. I mean, that would be in my top 5% because they are not going to get killed. But I would feel better about the unit growth and the pricing power of a Coke over 20 or 30 years than I would about a Procter & Gamble. Right now, the pricing power might be tough, but you think of billion servings a day, an extra penny, $10 million a day. We own 8% of it. That's $800,000 a day for Berkshire Hathaway. You get another penny out of the stuff. Doesn't seem impossible, does it? I mean, it's worth another penny. But, it doesn't. Right now, it'd be a mistake to try and get it in most markets. But over time, Coke will make more per serving than it does now. 20 years from now, I'll guarantee it'll make more per serving. They'll be selling a whole lot more servings. I don't know how many. I don't know how much more, but I know that. P&G's main products, I don't think they have the kind of dominance, and they don't have the kind of unit growth, but they're good businesses. I would not be unhappy if you told me that I had to put my family's net worth in P&G, and that was the only stock I could own. I would, I might prefer some other names, but there aren't 100 other names I would prefer. Yeah.
On that same model, what about McDonald's? Should we go away 20 years, come back?
McDonald's, the question's about McDonald's and going away for 20 years. McDonald's has got a lot of things going for it, and particularly abroad again. I mean, their position abroad in many countries is stronger relatively than here. It's a tougher business over time. People do not want to eat, exception to the kids when they're giving away Beanie Babies or something, people do not want to eat at McDonald's every day. I mean, if people are drinking Coke today, they drink 5 of them today, they'll probably drink 5 tomorrow. The fast food business is tougher than that. But if you had to pick one hand to have in the fast food business, which is going to be a huge business worldwide, you'd pick McDonald's. I mean, it has the strongest position. It doesn't win taste tests, with adults. It does very well with children, and it does fine with adults. But it is not like it's a clear winner.